So, for the rest of our exciting morning, we start with, from our parent body in the US, I'd like to introduce David Doty, the Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer of the IAB in New York City. David has a wealth of knowledge and experience in the growth of the global digital market and is uniquely placed to help us understand the coming years in our own industry. So, welcome, David.
It is a real privilege and honor to be here. It's my first time in South Africa. In fact, my first time in Africa at all. And one of the thoughts I had when I was landing in Johannesburg was, I'm going home. We all come from Africa. And that was a very important moment to me to understand that and to internalize it. So thank you for welcoming me home so well. And among the people I would like to thank are Jared and Josephine, who've really made this a wonderful time for me here. Not only because I'm here with IAB, and I'd like to congratulate them on bringing this excellent crowd and this excellent content together today, but also because they took me into the bush, and it was my first time doing that. So I was even more connected to where I know way far ago, before I have any consciousness of, that's where my roots are. When you looked out at the stars in the bush, it was a really moving personal experience. So thank you for that. So can we applaud for them, please, for having put this together? So, and I also remember that some things happen in the bush and they stay in the bush. As Jared said, one of the things I do, there are 43 IABs around the world, and one of the things I have the privilege of doing is visiting a lot of those IABs across the globe and talking with them and learning from them. And I expect over the next day and certainly well into this evening to learn about what is going on here in South Africa and to be able to take back those lessons to the United States. I hope I can bring some lessons to you as well. Before we can get into what we believe an IAB can do to help create a marketplace in a country or across the globe, I'd like to talk a bit about IAB and how we see ourselves. I'm sure many of you don't necessarily know what IAB is, so it stands for the Interactive Advertising Bureau, and Josephine told me that since she joined, she realized it stood for I am busy. So I'd never thought about that before. This is our mission. We empower the media and marketing industries to thrive in the digital economy. You know, at first, when I started working at IAB about 8 years ago now, we used to say we were about growing digital and growing our members' share of the digital pie. And we realized that that momentum was happening naturally. It was happening on its own, whether we were there to make it happen or not. And we thought really what we need to do is make sure that all of our members profited from it in some way or another, some more than others, but of course, all of them profiting from it, marketers and agencies profiting from it, the consumer profiting from it by having a better experience, and certainly many regions around the globe profiting from it as well. So that's really what our main goal is. So over the next few minutes, I'm going to take you through a variety of things I thought I would show you so you'd know where I was at any particular moment. We're going to do this overview. We're going to learn about mobile's moment. And we're going to end up on creativity, which I think in many ways harks back to the last two speakers we heard. One said, Ali, that creativity is about constraints, and that is very true. And we also heard David Sable, who's a friend of mine from the United States, from New York, actually say that creativity is really what we're here for. And I can't wait until I see the Bookmarks Award this evening, because I think that will reinforce that message. So here's the IAB overview. As I mentioned, we have 43 IABs around the world. You can see them up here. We are now on every continent in the world except Antarctica. I don't expect that will happen soon, but it will happen certainly in places like Japan, where we are not yet, and that is part of our intention to continue to grow our family, our network around the world. Of Quentin George. Does anybody here know Quentin George? He's a famous guy in media in New York City, and he comes from South Africa. And he once said something to me that sticks with me to this day. He said, there's an old African saying, David, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so that's what we try to do with this global organization of 43 IABs around the world. We want to go together with you, so welcome to the family. I'm thrilled that you're a part of it. In the United States, we were founded as a sellers organization. We're mostly publishers. That doesn't mean that outside the US, we don't have other IABs that have other kinds of members, whether they are associate members, whether they are buyers, sellers, sometimes they're actually measurement companies. So it's different in every place around the world. We don't insist that it look exactly like the United States. But as you can see here, we have every major pure play, AOL, Google, Microsoft, Twitter, Facebook, etc. We also have all of the what were traditionally television stations, whether it's BBC, and thank you BBC for supporting IAB here. BBC is a great friend of IAB around the world. And so CBS, NBC, ESPN are also our members. We also have the ad networks within our sphere as well. They're also our main members. And so we are the largest tent of digital companies in the world. We like to think of ourselves as having, some people say invented, I like to say powered the modern digital ad industry. And you can see here that we started in 1996 and we come all the way over to 2014. You'll see that in 2013, or early 2014, IAB South Africa joined the network. Back in 1998, we did something really important. We defined the impression. How do you deliver a message? How do you count that message in digital? And we realized since 2011, what we really need to do is redefine the impression for the viewability revolution. And I'll talk a bit about that. We also believe that privacy, consumer privacy, is really important. So we did the first actual online campaign in which we helped consumers protect their privacy online, control their privacy online. We have 5 enduring priorities, and here they are. As you can see, they're actually what we concentrate on in this year in the United States. We need to make the digital supply chain trustworthy. I'll talk a bit about that. We need to make measurement make sense. It doesn't for a lot of people. We need to help our publishers transform so all of them can take advantage of the digital revolution. We need to help brands learn how to build themselves digitally online. So online digital is no longer just a direct response medium, but actually a brand building medium. And of course, moving mobile mainstream is another important goal we have. Underneath there, you will see our various capabilities. We have about 50 people in the United States working at IAB. Digital is now the largest ad medium in the US, I'm happy to report. These are the last numbers we have, which are from 2013. I expect to have the year-end 2014 numbers in March or so, but what you will see here is it was a $43 billion ad revenue industry in the United States. Now, if you add broadcast and cable television, you get a much larger number. But as you heard from David and from Ali before me, television is changing. How television gets consumed and how people are, I'm assuming it's happening here, they're cord cutting in the United States, young people, in larger and larger numbers. And so that means people are going to be consuming all of their video eventually in a different way. It's not going to be about the box, it's going to be about the content, and the content is video. It's not a television screen. What I do have to tell you is that for 2014 is that we did do the half-year revenue numbers, and we see that they already hit $23 billion. And history shows us that the first half of the year is less than half of what will happen throughout the year. I suspect that we're going to be over $50 billion in advertising revenue in the United States in 2014 when we come to the end of that year. That will be a major moment. Why is this happening? Well, because consumers are going to digital devices, of course. You're all doing it. I can see many of you are on your phones right now. But in addition, brands can learn how to tell stories better now like they never could before. So you see that mobile, digital video in rich media are actually up in percentages much greater than the rest of digital. And I think over time, that will allow brands to learn how to tell their stories better in rich media ways. So mobile's moment. You know, mobile is the biggest growth story in the United States. I understand about feature phones and smartphones here, but look at these numbers. 18% overall compound annual growth rate for all of digital since 2004. Mobile, however, is up 123% year over year since 2010. That tells us it's inevitable, it has happened, and it will continue to grow that way. Global mobile ad revenue, we actually do this study with our partners. So I think now that South Africa is part of our network, we'll be able to see what's going on in global mobile ad revenue here in South Africa. We saw that jump in the last full year that we have, 2013. It doubled from the year before. In the United States, this has been a historic year. Mobile internet usage now exceeds PC usage in the United States. In fact, in a certain way, in the United States, we're behind the rest of the world because most of the rest of the world is mobile first. And we were PC, we were tablet-based, and now we finally caught up with the consumption patterns in the rest of the world. But of course, there are top mobile challenges. So we went to marketers and we said, so what are the challenges for you? Fragmentation that I talked about, audiences in multiple devices and doing multiple things at once. Privacy, I mentioned that. People don't feel necessarily so comfortable with their privacy online and in a mobile world. And metrics. How can I measure this, say marketers and agencies? And we need, as IAB in the United States and around the world, to understand that these are the big challenges and to begin to address them. One of the things we did was launch a mobile marketing center to speed this transition to mobile first, because in the US, we certainly were not. Here are some of the things that we undertake. I think one of the most important is fixing mobile creativity. David Sable talked about that as just sort of like, it doesn't matter what device you're on. It doesn't, but what really matters is that you have a great experience. And I don't think yet we have achieved the great experiences for advertising in a mobile environment that we can actually get to someday. Video is also booming in the United States, online video. I assume that is happening here. I do not know. Does anyone know the state of online video here? Are people consuming more and more online video? And we're seeing that they're not only consuming online video, they're consuming it on their devices. So there's this propulsive growth. You'll see just look at any of these numbers. Total video ads streamed up 211%. That is an astonishing number. And marketers, of course, need to be where their audiences are, so they intend to grow their digital video spend. We interviewed them. Did both kinds of studies where we asked them deep questions and just asked them specific questions. 65% said they're going to spend more in digital video. We hope that's true, because that'll be good for our members. And part of the expression of this boom in digital content in the United States is something called the digital content newfronts. I'm sure you're familiar with the notion of newfronts, which we have for television in the United States for many years. This is how we create a marketplace. We bring programming together with marketers and advertising agencies to say, here's what's coming up, here's how you can get involved in getting your messages out there. Those are new fronts, and we are actually creating these digital content new fronts in the United States, founded by these partners. They came to us in 2012 and said, would you please manage this for us? And we said, you bet we will. And we did it in 2012, 2013, 2014, and we will do it again in 2015 in the next few months. At the end of 2013's digital content new fronts, we said, well, so what are the biggest hurdles to buying original digital video ads, whether you're an agency or a marketer? And here's what they told us. It's interesting because it's consistent with other things we've learned about mobile, for instance. It's about measurement and it's about scale. You've heard a bit about programmatic today. And it's certainly been tweeted about, talked about, And people who are in advertising sales have worried about programmatic. Is it going to take away my job? In many cases, no, it will not. It will just create the continuum that David Sable talked about of how you buy advertising, whether it's digital or not. And we brought together our top members and we said to them, okay, you understand programmatic better than we do. Can you tell us what you think programmatic is and what's going on? So they told us these are the themes that have converged. Technology can self-evidently deliver benefits through automation. And the object of engagement should be the audience. That's really what's driving programmatic's growth. Putting together audiences, not channels, not specific sites. And rich data sets can obviously fuel the identification and the target and the engagement of these target audiences. And yet, no surprise again, given what I've said before, despite all this growth in programmatic buying, uncertainties do remain. There are profound obstacles. There's confusion over terminology. A lot of people say programmatic and mean something different from what somebody else says. And that's what we can do as an IAB, is help create the right understanding of the vocabulary as we do it. There's opacity. Do people who are buying in programmatic ways understand what they are buying, where they are buying? And we need to make sure that that is clear. There's a complexity of tech stack on the publisher side and on the agency side. And how can we address that? There's channel conflict, lack of liquidity. There are many challenges, and that is what an IAB can help do. It can help do it across the globe, and it can help do it in a country. Address these challenges. And because all of you, I am sure, are experts in programmatic buying, I certainly am, and the way I got to be an expert in it is by going here. This isn't too long a video for me to show here, but it is a superb overview of what programmatic means. Go to iab.net/programmatic, and you will really get an excellent insight into what is happening with programmatic and real-time bidding. So in the United States, we've done a lot of talk about what does it mean to build a trustworthy digital supply chain. What's the worst problem in internet advertising? You know what it is. It's about malware. It's about bot fraud. I just got a text from someone in the US this morning saying, oh, there's this breaking story about new malware being installed. It's going to be big, David. Can you deal with it now? No, I'm in South Africa right now, happily. Ad-supported privacy. I assume all of you have the same fear. So do your friends. So do your families. So do marketers and agencies. We have to solve this as an industry. We have to address it. We have to face it. We have to understand that people are worried, and we have to help them trust us. So what we've done in the United States is launch something called the Trustworthy Accountability Group. And this Trustworthy Accountability Group is not just the publishers, it's not just IAB, it's also the ANA, which represents the marketers, and the 4As, which represents the agencies. And we want to create a monitoring program to assure reliability of marketers, agencies, media, tech companies, and all the rest, so that everyone can be trusted in the supply chain. Right now, anyone can get into the advertising supply chain in digital and institute malware or fraud. And we need to face it, and then we need to address it. So we'll have this monitoring program. And then we're going to have a compliance program to encourage any faulty business partners to improve their performance, to take a step in the right direction. And in the end, what we're going to have is a trusted environment for businesses and consumers that really is, I believe, the most important thing we need to do as an IAB and as an industry: make ourselves trustworthy, make people feel safe when they go online. Have you heard about making measurement make sense? Does that resonate with any of you? Well, in the United States, back in about 2011, we said, we've defined the impression. But what we haven't really thought about is how media agencies and marketers think about all the rest of their buys. We need to facilitate cross-platform comparisons so that they can understand that digital is a part of the program. It might be the majority part of the program, but we have to find the right way to bring the impression into a world where it's about redefining the impression so it's about viewability. Have you heard about viewability? Can I see some hands if you've heard about okay, so you've heard about the issues of viewability, of course. So that's how we're defining the impression now. It has to be a viewable impression. And we're going to establish a new audience currency because of that. That is a revolution. Very few media have actually been through this in so short a time to redefine their currency in this revolutionary way. So what's happening in the US? I thought you might want to know a bit about viewability there. We've got some good things going on. I just saw a story where Peter Naylor from Hulu was saying, you know, I'm getting higher prices for my viewable inventory, so that's great. I just saw this morning Facebook saying we only sell viewable ads. So, you know, we're seeing some good news. We're also seeing what we would call at IAB some bad news. And some of the bad news is some marketers and some agencies are insisting on 100% viewable campaigns. This is a problem because none of the vendors, none of the publishers can actually measure 100% viewable across every campaign. It is a technological problem we haven't yet solved, and we've committed ourselves at IAB to say 2015 is a year of transition. We have the same, publishers have the same goal as every marketer and every agency, which is to have viewable ads when that's what you want to buy. We should be able to deliver them. We agree with that. But yet, right now, we're not able to do that. You're not able to measure it, so we need this period of transition. Let me look toward the future. You don't need me to tell you that digital continues to revolutionize the world. It changes how we talk to one another. Yes, it's the same old word of mouth. Yes, it's about the things we've always done as humankind. But what it has done in a way that no other medium ever has is allowed us to do it at a scale that was unimaginable before, and at a speed that was unimaginable before. So IAB has had to change. In 2015, we are going to be remaking ourselves. We're going to have our traditional IAB core, a 501c6. These are American ways of registering corporations. I don't think that the detail matters about that, but what matters is we're going to have a traditional IAB. We are also going to start an education foundation. We realize in the United States that the workforce is not as diverse as the actual consumer force, and we need to do something about that across race, gender, and all kinds of other dimensions. And we're going to be able to do that by helping to educate a new and empowered workforce. We're also going to help companies that actually depend upon the workforce get to this place where they can look at certified individuals, and we're going to do it for publishers, and we're going to do it for sellers, for buyers, and we're going to be able to say, you're IAB certified. And we hope to be able to work here with South Africa to help you have a certification program too. We're also going to relaunch how we do our technical specs. We're going to do them with much more rigor, and we're going to launch the IAB Technical Laboratories. In fact, they're already launched in the United States. And we would ask anyone across the globe who wants to be part of the actual development of technical specs, so it is not just one way out, the US developing them first and the rest of the world accepting or rejecting them, but actually getting you involved at the front end so you can be part of this the IAB Technical Laboratories. I'm sure Jared or Josephine will know the details when you want to know them. And this compliance organization is what I talked about a minute ago, which is about making sure that our consumers, brands, agencies, ourselves, we can feel that anything we do online is actually trustworthy. So all of this talk that I've just given up till now is about the plumbing, in a sense, of interactive. And what we're really here to do as people who are working in the interactive industry is be creative, is actually touch people's hearts and minds. And what I noticed is that before I came here, I thought, you've got the Bookmarks Awards. Well, what's going on in the rest of IABs around the world? About 90% of the IABs around the world run awards programs where they recognize creativity, usually, and effectiveness as well. and you're doing that here. Some of them are called mix, which is what we call ours in the United States. In Mexico, they call it Conecta. So there are many different ones around the world. You have the Bookmarks Awards. But the important thing is that what we are doing as a global body is recognizing that we are about creativity and effectiveness. And you can go here to the IAB.net/Mix Awards and look at the best digital work that was chosen in the United States by very senior creatives and media planners and publishers and marketers, and figure out why they chose these awards, because we actually give you a guide in what works and why. What constitutes great work online? We spent years doing the awards, but we never actually captured the learnings from it. And eventually, it was just last year, where we realized we could really look at what we've done over the years and understand what makes great creativity online. And not only great creativity, but what works and why it works. We have the information for that. And we didn't just do it based on the US awards, we actually did a second version, which is global. So you can go to the Awards Insights URL and see what that is. What you will see there are both case studies, which are submitted obviously by the agencies usually who create it, and why it won. So you can understand not just, so-and-so won something in these 3 sentences, but what their goal was in the case study and what the judges thought about why it stood out and made something important. So rather than talk about creativity, I thought what I would do is show some great creativity. We've created some new advertising, new ad units in the United States called Rising Stars. I don't know if they've come here yet. They're more sort of brand-friendly canvases. And we went to AKQA, the great agency, great creative agency, and we said, so what could you do with this ad unit? Like, let's not make it about the ad unit. Let's not make it about your brand. Let's not make it about monetization, as David Sable said. What can you do to move people? And they came back with this answer about what is possible with inside a digital video. About the idea. It is about storytelling, which, as we know, the oldest stories, as David said earlier as well, come from here in Africa. So we need to look at what's possible, not just look at what we've already done. And there are great things that are possible. And I'd like to end with another example. An award-winning program at the IAB Mix Awards, this one Best in Show, because it shows the deep and broad creativity you can bring to digital and how you can transcend borders. As we've already said, there's been no other medium in the world like this one that is global and was instantaneously global and adopted so quickly across the world. Wherever I go, and I go to a lot of different places, developing countries, developed countries, in the northern hemisphere and in the southern hemisphere, and everyone is connected or wants to be connected online. And this is why.
The relationship between India and Pakistan is one that has seen a lot of lows.
It's stressful, it's tense.
It seems it's not improving and it's getting worse.
It's only been 60 years that we have been apart. Before that, we were living harmoniously together.
I think all the strife would go away if you took away the barbed wires in the middle of the two countries.
It saddens me that we have this neighbor that we can't even go visit.
They have this perception which they've been ingrained in their heads that that's the bad guy. But when they actually meet them, they realize, you know what, he's just like me.
Mainly because there's no communication. They're near us, but we have no access to them. And it's sad, because together I think we would do wonders.
So, over the next few hours, as we enjoy the rest of this conference, as we think about what we're here to do, let's think about touching people and transforming the world and really making a difference, because that is what we're put on earth to do. So thank you very much. Pleased to have been here.
Thank you. Thank you, David. People still ask me, what is the IAB about? Why do we have an IAB? Do we need an IAB? Hopefully that gives you some sense of where we can get to if we really work as an industry and really build up the organization. Some of those numbers seem well beyond our reach, but they certainly point in the direction that we all can get to.